Hey guys, it's Allie. Welcome back to Infertile, the podcast. This is episode 256 called Kristin. All right, guys. So I have another Fertility Rally member on my show today. I love talking to all of our Rally fam on this show because everybody's story is so different. And today it is Kristin Thompson. She is also on IG at Financial Fertilization, which is a new handle that she has now. She describes herself as a girl learning to love her body and yoga enthusiast. She's an IVF warrior, and she's a new IVF mama. And she's going to tell us her whole family building story today. So she's going to talk a lot about, which I love, her relationship with her husband and how it was really hard at times, which she and I have in common, as you guys know if you've heard my story. She's going to talk about the depression of going through infertility and not being able to have a baby. She's a very extroverted person, as you'll see. She's really entertaining to talk to, but there were times when she just didn't want to get out of bed or see friends. You know, she talks about therapy and going on medication and self-care, unexplained infertility, IUI, and then what happened when she finally had her little baby girl. So, Kristin, thank you so much for doing this. Without further ado, this is Kristin's infertility story. Oh my gosh, Kristin! Hi, friend. How are you?
I am doing well.
Good. I've actually met you in person, so I feel like we are like family at this point.
Yeah, I know. I know. And I felt really, I don't know if you picked up on it, but I felt really lame because obviously I've been listening to the podcast. So I was like kind of fangirling. Like I was like, oh my gosh, Allie's right there. And then there's Blair. I really want.
Oh God. Well, it's just me. You know that now. So anyway, before we started recording, you mentioned why you wanted to do this podcast. So if you can tell us, well, let's start there because I think you have a really cool reason.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So when I started going through this, I felt like I was the only one. And so my own processing included I need to start talking about it. The more I talked about it, the more I found out I wasn't alone. And then the more I found I wasn't alone, the more I was wondering why aren't we talking about this? So it's become my passion to make this more of a conversation for women to feel comfortable, women's health to be explored. And then I just want to help because I also had I had no clue. I knew nothing. Mm-hmm. So that's also why it was important to me to get
I love that. So have you always wanted to have kids?
No, actually. When I was younger, there was a moment, when I say younger, I'm talking about a teenager. There was a moment where I was like, I don't think I ever want kids because I was not really a babysitter or anything like that. And then truthfully, it was meeting my husband and just thinking about, I know that's very sweet, but it's true. It was me and my husband just thinking about what do I see for my life and envision when I thought I would love to do that with someone. Yeah.
That's so cool. How did you guys meet?
Through a mutual friend. We just missed the phase of apps. I went to DC and a friend had Tinder and I was like, what are you doing? You're going to be murdered. And by the time I got back to St. Louis, it was making its way there. I had just downloaded it and met him at a friend's birthday party like later that week. And yeah, so never explored.
So what was it about him that made you start to envision a future? And when did you guys start talking about family building?
Yeah. I'll answer the second part about family building first, because also, as anyone who's listening who's been in their 20s knows, dating can be like a dumpster fire.
Totally.
Yeah. So I actually, at some point early on, knew, hey, these are the things that are important to me. And if you're not into that, I'm not gonna. And I wanted someone open to kids. So that conversation came up early because I wanted to be open. But then, yeah, with him, our first date, I always say was the best first date of my life. And
why? What did you guys do?
We didn't do anything that special, but it was just specifically Like we went to dinner and walked around, not even dinner, just like drinks, got some snacks, walked around a part of town that I really like in St. Louis. But honestly, it was the conversation. Not only was he playing along with me asking the questions like, what animal would you be? Because again, I'm done with doing dates. But
I love it.
also when we had some deeper dialogue, he was saying things that's like, that's exactly how I feel about that topic, but there's no way you would know that. And we were just in sync.
Oh, wow. That's so cool when you have that instant connection with somebody.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm losing my train of thought on the
Best first date and then family building.
oh yeah, yeah. So that's first date. So we had that conversation early, open to it. And then I guess should I just get right into it about what happened with the family building?
Yeah, sure. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, before we get into that, what did you know about fertility and getting pregnant and staying pregnant and all that stuff?
Yeah.
This because you listen to the show. It's a theme that a lot of people, my generation, your age, even younger, don't know much. We're always just taught, don't get pregnant.
Oh, for sure. So that relates to our story because I didn't know a damn thing. In fact, I felt so. Is that okay that I'm saying damn? I might.
100%. There's fuck in the title, Kristin.
Oh, right, duh. That shows how immune I am to that word. Desensitized. Not a damn thing. And in fact, I felt so failed because I don't know if you feel this way, but from health class, I could tell you everything about how and why a man gets an erection and like the blood going through and all this stuff. I can tell you everything. All I could have told you was that I have a period, and if I'm not having it, I might be pregnant.
Yep.
Like I don't think I could have said much more than that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, yeah. And so that relates to our journey
Yeah.
because
So yeah, what happened when you guys started to try? Let's jump into that.
So when we were dating and on the same page, we'd always said, we want kids one day. If it doesn't happen easily, we'll adopt, whatever. Didn't think twice about it. That's that. I wanted to be married before we even started thinking about kids. So our 2-year anniversary, and I'm approaching my 30s, I'm going to turn 30, was February 2020. And we had said, we're not going to try for kids. The world is our oyster. I had really started doing well with work, and we had a lot of big trips planned that year. So we're like, nah, we'll push this off a year. Well, then March of 2020 happened. And so it's what better time to take time off from drinking, from going out, from all this stuff that's happening. And
Right.
then
The
and then
lockdown.
and then I will add in another thing that's ignited my passion. Also, my health insurance made a change with my birth control. So I went to stock up on things like everyone did, and it went from free to they wanted me to pay maybe like $400 for something that I was gonna have to pick up every month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, F no. And then of course,
No,
yeah, and then of
not
course,
happening.
yeah, an insurance guy way above his pay grade was like explaining things to me and being very helpful. But at the end of the day, it was like this is going to be in our future. I'm not going to adjust to a new birth control or all that. We just pulled the goalie. So that begins the trying quote unquote time. Was we just were like, we're just not going to stop it. And as far as I knew, that's all you need to do, right?
Totally. Once you stop, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's because it's so easy.
Yes, that's it. Once I stop using condoms and birth control, you have a baby.
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly.
Apparently,
Okay.
even according to friends, I might still have a baby with a condom. So yeah, this is
Right. So I feel like that's not what happened though, right?
not at all. Not at
What
all.
happened?
And like begins the like intro, the horror music, the descent. So
Totally. I love you, Kristin.
oh.
I'm already like, this is so fun. I love talking to you.
Yeah. So that, like I said, March pulled the goalie, business as usual. We're actually making the best of the pandemic, and we're actually doing pretty okay just being with each other. Even though I'm a big extrovert, like it was fine. I think what happened towards the end of the summer of 2020 is that maybe my birth control fully left my system. And what I mean by that is, again, just trying to educate women, everything out there. I was without the birth control still pretty regular. And then it was around the end of the summer when not only had we not gotten pregnant, and I kind of noticed that, my birth control started being all over the place. I started being emotional, hormonal. It was just a shit show.
Mm-hmm.
But also we had because it was all over the place, we had some late periods and some scares where we thought maybe I was pregnant. I was not. It eventually came. And that's when it really sunk into us. Like we had a conversation and he was like, yeah, I'm a little disappointed too. So that's when I started actually buying the ovulation test. And that's when your friends start telling you the few things of like, oh, and try this and drink this vitamin and
Right.
yeah, that's when
Did you have any friends who had gone through infertility or having a hard time or
not that I knew of.
miscarriage or anything? Okay.
Not that I knew of at all. No one. In fact, I was just watching one by one more people having their pandemic pregnancies at that time. And again, wasn't too alarmed though, but this is, I think, important to my story. Once we really were doing the ovulation sticks, hey, I'm ovulating, let's have sex, which is the least sexy thing. That's when he also started to have some performance anxiety, for lack of better words.
Yep.
And that's when,
So common.
Yeah. And that's when it started to be a real emotional strain on us. And by January 2020, at some point in there, I appreciate my doctor. Finally, you could go to doctors. I went from
2021.
No, actually, this is the end of 2020 in
Oh,
November.
Okay. Gotcha.
I went to my OBGYN and she said, hey, get through the holidays. Don't worry about it. But come January, so I'm still ahead of 12 months of waiting that they say, they say you got to wait 12 months. And my OBGYN was actually very cool and didn't think that. She said, come January, after your period, you come in, we'll test your progesterone. I always say this word wrong. Progesterone?
Progesterone. Yeah.
Yes. We'll test that for me and we'll test his sperm.
Okay.
So I appreciate that she said that. That gave me some relief. And we did that. But by January 6th of 2020, I remember because I was watching people attack the Capitol for what felt like the right to be racist. That's my own opinion. Veering off. By that time, I realized I was depressed.
Yeah. Okay. So what did that look like for you? The depression?
Yeah. So remember, I'm an extrovert, and 2021, we're realizing, oh, we still are going to be in this. And my husband and I, if we're having intimacy, it's so regimented and usually ends in uncomfortable us laying apart from each other because we didn't do what we were seeking to do. I'm not seeing anyone. And so what was starting to happen, so those are the causations. What was starting to happen for me, what it looked like for me was, I'm a morning person. I did not want to get out of bed. I was very uninterested in any social activities, even though I knew I needed the social activity. It was it was such a trial and strain to do it. And yeah, I just wasn't really interested in much. And so I went for a walk, again, forcing myself, went for a walk with a friend who is a psychiatrist or psychologist, but she has a background in this, and started talking to her. And she was like, I think you're having like an episode of depression. And that is going to make it even harder to conceive. And so I made it a focus to just focus on me, and found a virtual therapist. And I remembered when I had an early appointment with her, just being like, I don't care about anything, which I care about everything. I am very passionate.
Right.
And I didn't even think anything of me saying it, but I was just like, I don't care about this. I don't care about that. I really don't even care about talking to you right now. And that's when it hit me. I was depressed. So that was our first time out on Truly, even though we did get the test done and my hormone levels were normal, his sperm was normal. We did say, we're going to take a break from formally thinking about this because I needed to get myself together. So that was the start of, it's 2021, the start of there's something going on. Yeah.
Okay. And the depression, I'm glad that you talked about that because I felt that way too. It's takes such an emotional toll.
Yeah.
When you're going through trying to get pregnant and not being able to, or getting pregnant, having losses, whatever your journey may be. It's just when you want to have a baby and it is one of the hardest things in the whole entire world. So I think it's great to, as we said, normalize the conversation around this and say that it's okay to feel that way. And there's people out there to talk to that can help you and all that stuff. So, okay. So what happened next?
Yeah. So I had, at my friend's suggestion, put just a random date, like in like a Google Calendar or somewhere hidden in a paper calendar somewhere of just like, are you ready? Kind of my note to myself, because I didn't want to be like regimented. I will start again at this time. So
Oh, that's smart. So almost like a little heads up to yourself that like
yeah, because I
not too
didn't.
much pressure, but
Not
like,
pressure. Yeah, that
yeah.
was her suggestion, because she had pointed out, she's like, because even once you start to feel better, you're gonna want to enjoy being better before you
Mm.
even still. So I had done that at her suggestion, and so now we're into summer again, and by this point, it has been over a year, and still nothing, and we're still sleeping together. It did relieve some pressure, and still nothing. So it's at this point when we go back to our OBGYN, and she's like, yeah, that's not how it should be.
Okay.
So she then suggested, she gave me 3 referrals to fertility clinics. And I appreciate greatly how transparent she was of, this person will do this person believes in, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if it was holistic, but there was a religious element to it. So so she said, so if you have issues, this person might not help you then
Mm.
with the treatment. Like, she was very
Okay.
transparent about everything.
Yeah, that's good. So you can choose
Yeah,
the right person for you guys.
exactly. And we set up 2 we eliminated that one person, and we set up 2 consultations with people. And the first place, oh my gosh, I mean, you got to find humor in this stuff sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And the first place, so I called to book it, and I'm on the phone, and she's getting my intake information, and I can tell that she's maybe not talking to me anymore. And so I'm like, I'm sorry, are you busy? And she comes back to the phone. She's like, sorry about that. There is, some people just don't respect that I'm on the phone. And she just starts talking crap about everyone who she works with to
Oh
me.
God.
And yes, and she's like, oh, and so the doctor, who was the doctor I was trying to book with, she was like, she's no better. She doesn't respect when I'm like doing something else. And I'm like, being the person I am, I was like, yeah, I get it, man. People need to respect your situation. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't think I need this energy for this
No, God,
serious
no.
topic. And then she was so caught up in her story that we agreed on a time, and then she didn't book it for the right time.
Oh God. So it was
So
all
what I
about her.
Oh God, yeah.
Next.
So what I wanted to do before I went on a trip, I ended up doing in a rental car, driving somewhere. It was a mess. We didn't go with that clinic. Trust your gut, everyone. Like, we didn't go with that. I was like, this is too intense of a situation for me to mess with that.
Stakes are too high.
It's too much, yeah. And the other place, we had a consultation. Not only was it very informative, but they also were like, so let's go ahead. If you want to move forward, we can go ahead and book. And even that mindset I was all about. So went ahead and booked. I was feeling better, feeling less depressed.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I see a therapist. And I do a lot of working out, things for myself,
Mm-hmm.
not on medication. I bring this up because I soon would go on medication. And I think all those things are hard for people too. I didn't have a hard time talking about seeing a therapist, because I felt like if I needed help with losing weight, I would see a trainer. Like, you just get help.
Mm-hmm. But there's
I
a
did have to get
stigma. Yeah.
Yeah, I did have to get over the hurdle of what comes next. But so we see the clinic. It's now fall, and we get back the results of unexplained infertility, which is
Mm.
bittersweet.
Right. Yeah.
You're like,
Explain why you think it's bittersweet.
it's there's nothing wrong, which I don't think you want anything wrong, but at the same time, it's like, where do you go from here?
Yeah.
At this
Exactly. There's no clear path and there's no
Yes.
like, well, here's the issue and here's how to tackle it.
Yeah. At this point, because I had started to discuss just being depressed openly in an effort to help me not be depressed, I legitimately reached out to friends and said, hey, like, check on me, invite me out. I need
Mm.
to be doing things. I started to only with a close group of friends and my mom and my parents talk about that we're also trying to conceive. And it was at that
Mm.
point when I did find one of my friends said, hey, you should look at this girl we went to high school with post. She's had a baby. and how she's describing it, it sounds like she might have gone through some stuff that you went through.
Okay.
Her and I connected, and that was my first taste of, oh, there are more people going through this. And I'm glad that she and I talked, because we talked before I got the unexplained diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So she educated me on IUI versus IVF, which I had no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought you would have had to go straight into IVF, which from what you hear sounds like a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
she talked to me about that. She talked to me about the various hormonal drugs they might offer. So that was a very good prep before that doctor conversation. So I went into getting the diagnosis with a few questions on what my options would be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what did they say? Like, what was going to be the plan?
So given that I had unexplained that we didn't have any poor hormonal levels or anything, I did ask about, and they talked to me about IUI versus IVF, and they didn't think that there was any reason to go straight to IVF. Again, from what I knew, I didn't think so either. I'm people can't see my face, but I'm saying this very skeptically because knowing what I know now,
Right.
it's all a mess. But that was the plan. Which one do you want to start? And then, oh God, and then nothing's free. So we already have paid for a few tests here and there.
And you didn't have any insurance coverage on any of this?
No,
Mhm.
not only did we not have insurance coverage, some people might think that's just the result of me picking a poor plan, but more so, I actually heard Missouri is one of the states that's not very good about covering this kind of stuff. So it's
Mhm.
pretty common to not have coverage. So we've already paid for a few tests here and there. So yeah, so they were ready to go. I liked the idea of having a plan, was a little bit overwhelmed by what's next. And then asked for the prices. So they sent me an
Right.
email on IUI versus IVF, and we decided we would go IUI, and we did one round of IUI before the end of the year. So what I didn't realize is that there's still just as much monitoring and stuff you need with IUI.
Mhm.
So what I thought would be a way to get some help, but least invasive, still was a huge disruptor. Um,
Mhm.
as you probably know, and anyone who's started or thinks about it wants to know. Again, the good thing is because my hormone levels were pretty normal, I didn't have to take too much extra medication. So at this point, I'm not doing any shots. I'm doing just oral Letrizole is what I chose.
Mhm.
I heard from my friend about how Clomid was not great for her, made her kind of crazy. And then and I asked about that with the doctors, and they said the same thing. Clomid's kind of a really intense one. So took Letrizole. You have all the appointments, all the stuff. We're now about to we did the trigger shot. So that was one shot, but again, not too
Mhm.
bad.
Mhm.
It's the morning that we're supposed to do this,
Okay.
and my husband comes downstairs and he doesn't think he can give a sample.
Mm.
It's not doesn't want to. Just
Yeah.
remember we had the performance anxiety thing.
Totally. Yes.
I'm I obviously am still processing that. I'm getting emotional about all that.
Aw.
So
It's
we
so
went,
hard. It's so
yeah,
hard. There's so much pressure.
yeah. So as long
Yeah.
as I didn't fault him, it was but I didn't know what to do because it's like it's not going to help this person at all to stress them out or make them feel bad. That's not going to help this. So I was just motivating, like, okay, we still have time because we did still have time at the time. Then when, nothing still was happening, I was like, okay, well, let's at least get there and maybe, because I needed to do some stuff too. So we get there and he was somewhere in a I dropped him off. I was like, you go inside and I'll park. And he was somewhere in a bathroom, somewhere in the facility. And I went in and checked in and I said, can I talk to the nurse? And they took me to the back. And when I sat down on the couch, I just started crying. And I
Totally.
started crying, saying, like, he's here and we're here, but we haven't given, like, how much time do we really have, and they were, I mean, they were training us. They were so sweet. And so like, hey, you actually do still have time and this and this, and gave me a real actual deadline.
Mhm.
Um, and also she also just told me the truth, which is like, and really statistically, like, this is no, which is wild. This, and by the IUI that we chose to do was that he was going to give a sample and they were going to insert that into me. And she was like, it's really not that different success rate as timed intercourse, as in if we went home and had sex. Because again, my hormone levels and I'm still ready. But that was our biggest issue. So I felt good knowing the data, but still was like, I don't know if that's going to work. At some point, I texted him to give him some relief and said, hey, they said we do still have time, trying to make him feel more comfortable.
Right, exactly.
Again, I don't know where he is in the hospital, but somewhere he's in some bathroom somewhere. Then at some point, I was like, hey, why don't you just take a beat? I got texted, why don't you just take a beat? We'll go get breakfast. And when he came back and we went to go get breakfast, by the way, while I was sitting in the waiting room waiting for him, this was my first connecting with what becomes your warrior sisters. Like anyone who's gone through this, you guys are just different. I remember looking up at this woman had checked in while I was waiting, and she was like, hey, my medication arrived, but it was all unthawed. And she sat down in front of me, and I looked at her and I was like, I can't imagine that happening. There's already a lot to do here. I can't imagine that. And I didn't even know what you're talking about. I had medication like that yet.
Right.
But I just said that to her, and she just like nodded and smiled at me. And I just felt this like, this is so hard, and only people who are in it can get it.
Totally.
Anyway, then my husband came, we went to breakfast. When we got to the restaurant, something hit me about the timing. I called them back and I said, here's where we are. How much time do we have left now? And they were like, I mean, you would have to come back now.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that wasn't
Gonna happen. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I took a moment to then also just cry.
Yeah.
And then we then went home. I didn't say any of this to him. It just wasn't going to help.
Yeah.
We then went home after breakfast, and we were just sitting on the couch watching daytime TV. And I remember just being numb because remember, we could have still had sex. And just the fact that he wasn't even like trying, which I know now that he was going through his own thing, but he wasn't even trying to like, flirt or anything. I was just sitting there numb. And at some point I went upstairs and just cried again. And he came upstairs and went to check on me. And that's when I finally just said, listen, I've been holding it together for you, but this isn't happening. We're one more month behind on where we thought we'd be. And
right.
I just need to break down for a minute.
Understandable. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was at that point we got through that, but our relationship was already kind of struggling, and I knew stuff wasn't going to be better. So it was at that point when I kept even more in from him, and we just really deteriorated. And I got depressed again. When I say again, I don't know if it ever left. It's how
right
it is now.
It's always looming.
Yeah, we truly fell apart.
Yeah. I can relate to that so hard as everybody knows, we had a real hard time with it too. And I feel like with relationships, it's usually like people either really like glue together and like come together or like break apart. There's kind of no gray area. It's because it's such a intense, traumatic situation so often.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I heard you talk about that, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, Vince and I are not good in chaos. We're just not. We're not good in conflict. We're just not.
Yeah,
and it's I don't know.
Is that have we talked about this? Are you an Enneagram person?
I don't know what my Enneagram is. I should though. So no, I don't think we've talked about it.
Then you're maybe not an Enneagram person, because I feel like if you are, you like know your thing, everyone in your life.
Yeah, right.
Our two Enneagrams, when it comes to conflict, react the complete opposite, which is I want to like conquer it, handle it, and he wants to avoid it. And that was definitely what was showing up. And also we, one thing that made us fall in love or into each other was respecting each other's independence. And so neither of us knew how to ask for help. Neither of us knew how to say, I'm really having a hard time, because that would make me then a different person from who you married, but we both really needed help. We both were struggling because it was unexplained, but he still thought that there was maybe something wrong with him. I still thought there was maybe something wrong with me. And honestly, when it comes to unexplained, I think the knowledge and research just isn't out there yet.
Right.
But
It's
yeah, so
true.
we just didn't know how to ask for help. And so we were falling apart and we were about, I mean, and when I say falling apart, I'm not just talking like fighting all the time, like real, like, I don't know if I can do this with you anymore.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
staying at my parents for a minute. Like
Mhm.
it was pretty low, pretty bad.
Yeah.
So it
Well,
was
thank
at
you
this,
for sharing that.
yeah. And it was, and you know what, this friend I told you about, the high school friend,
She's
she had
back.
actually, oh no, okay. She had actually said in the conversation when she talked about Clomid and IUIs, she'd also said, and it's very hard on your relationship. But remember, we survived the pandemic. So I was like, I don't really know what she means about that.
We're
And
good. Yeah.
to anyone out there, I will say it is very hard on your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was, so that instituted another break, if you will, another break in trying, because we were like, I don't even know if I don't even want to do this with you. Why would I have a kid with you?
Mm-hmm.
So after a lot of separation, after uh I did at this point, I now have a therapist and a psychiatrist because I got medication.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
After again working on myself and truly thinking about what I wanted, I got to the place sooner than he did of truly knowing like I want us to still be together. I want to be with you. I got there before him, but that's because I had done a lot of my own self work that he eventually started to do as well. But because I had made that decision first and I'm the planner, I also found us a marriage counselor. So at this point, I'm seeing a therapist, a psychiatrist, and we see a marriage counselor, medication doing all
That's
that
so
stuff.
awesome that you're like taking matters into your own hands, you know?
I have to. That's yeah, my like personality type. But
Totally.
so that got us through 2021, and
Mm-hmm.
we did get through 2021 knowing we want to be together. We will try this again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe before the end of the year, we maybe had tried at least one full IUI round because we in total we ended up doing two before we switched gears. So yeah, so now we're into 2022. We tried a second truly full through IUI round again that did not work. And
Mm.
this time, I know what the hell. Um,
Right.
Now I'm starting to talk about fertility more with people. Found another friend who had done it, and her exact words were IUIs are shit. And kind of like not laughed at me, but laughed with me at like, hey, like it bless your heart, IUIs might not work. It didn't for me. And it was, and I hope I might be some making her sound cold, but no, it was very, very supportive. We
Mm-hmm.
had planned a trip in March to Mexico to have something to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, either we'll be celebrating that I'm pregnant or we will, be taking a break. It was taking a break and we did all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And in the car ride coming on the car ride on that trip going back to the airport, I started crying because I had realized that I truly had allowed myself to separate for this. And I was like, when we go back home, I'm just going to be back in it again. And
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to stop because having those close calls, something that no one else talks about either, because people will tell you like, why don't you adopt? And I don't know if you feel this way, but you are putting out a lot of money and you're almost a little embarrassed. I felt a little sometimes embarrassed that we were continuing to try. But what people don't realize is it's not that anyone tells you it's going to take this long. In fact, every single time you even more are picturing your child and your new life.
Right. Plus, when people say, well, first, before we get into that, I just want to say on the IUI tip, I do have a handful of friends that have IUI babies. So don't want to feel them, like feeling left
That is
out
it.
that it's,
That is
you
it.
know,
That is a very good point, and bless
um,
their hearts that
and
yes,
that's so
some
awesome
IUIs
that,
do
you
work
know,
for some people.
exactly. But also, the adoption thing, it's like, God, first of all, it's not that easy when people are like,
Right,
oh, there's all these. I mean, that's such a like boneheaded way
right,
to be like, just adopt. Everybody listening to this show knows that,
right.
because everyone's in this world. But, it infuriates me when people say that. Like, it's like some simple answer.
Yeah.
And it's just, obviously, it's just not.
Yeah, and also, again, the Mexico trip, the amount of people were like, "Well, that's when it happens," and it's
Right.
getting to the point where you're like, "Dude, it's not fucking happening. Like, lighten up. Like, just don't say it's not happening."
Right.
Um, And thank you. Back to the IUI thing. Again, that high school friend, she actually never made it to the IVF round because she got pregnant off IUI.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so it is important to say because it's around this time also I think I found Rally because I
Yes.
feel like the circle just starts to get smaller. Like it's like I'm trying to have kids, and there's so many people who have also tried to have kids before. It's taking longer, and so many people who have it's tried to take longer. Oh, we're gonna have to go through IUI, and now people who have gotten pregnant off that. So with each extra step it took, it felt like my sphere of people who have been there with me was getting smaller.
Totally.
So I am glad I found Rally because some people do, that's all they need, and we need to go further. And the amount of people I knew who had IVF, it was even smaller. And then at this point in time, I don't have a single close friend outside of the Rally members who
Mm-hmm.
needed to do IVF the way that we had to do IVF actually.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have
Mm-hmm.
felt so alone had I not found this group. And I think I did find this group around this time at 2022. I think I found it.
Yes, I remember when you joined it. I was so glad when you started showing up at the meetings, and you were always just so awesome. And it was, you were very open, and I think you made everybody feel really comfortable, no matter what they were going through. That you had everybody's back, and that you were willing to share, and it helped other people feel comfortable and all that stuff. So I'm so glad you're a Rally fam member and now one of my
Thank
dear
you.
friends.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and if anybody's listening that doesn't know, Fertility Rally is open all the time now, and we're always
Oh, okay.
welcoming
Nice.
new members. We have groups for general infertility, we have pregnancy after infertility groups, motherhood after infertility groups. And a lot of our Rally members that have gone on to have babies are still in the group because
Yeah.
they want to still have that connection with people who've gone through this very specific experience of infertility or trying to conceive and running up against problems. So anyway, okay, so tell me what happened with you and your hubby next.
Yes. So at this point, we are. Oh, okay. So I started crying anyway, but got back home, got back into action in gear, and had talked to my doctor at this point because now it's been over 2 years, and I'm not getting any younger.
Yeah.
About
How old were you at this point?
at this point, I'm 32,
Okay.
going on 33.
hmm
Yeah. So not getting younger. So at this point, I went back and our original intention was to do 3 rounds of IUI because our doctor had said, I think in three, maybe something should happen. Well, I said, I'm not getting younger. I think I want to freeze my eggs. She said, well, eggs are stronger than embryos, and that process is very similar to IVF. So do you want to think about just moving on to IVF?
Mm,
And took some time to explore what that would look like because I was like, oh crap, like this IUI already took up a lot.
totally.
Do I want to do this? But we agreed and we decided. And by the way, at this point, we my husband and I are also much better. And I want to say that you said I appreciate that you say I was a helpful addition to Rally, but as you're hearing, I could only be that way because I'd done so much self work, at that point. But yeah, so 2022, we did the egg retrieval, which in my opinion, I think is harder than the transfer, harder physically.
hmm
Transfers are more emotionally hard. Was like, I can do this. This is it. They tell you it's not guaranteed. I mean, they tell you you're bringing your statistic just up to 50%. They tell you all this. And yet I was so positive. I'm laughing now. I was so optimistic and so like, this is it. This is our story. It took longer, but we got this. We're going to do this.
Right. That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just handling it all in such a numbers way. Like, I'm a math major and
hmm
A type. So when they even called us to tell us how many they got, they were so ready. In the end, it was 11 that were 11 embryos. And obviously, that number goes down from
Yes.
egg,
The lovely
yeah,
attrition
egg
rate.
mature for yeah. It was maybe 11, and then so many went off for testing. Long story short, we had a healthy number of 5 or 6 genetically tested good embryos. And when we had that call about that, they were so ready to talk to me about the ones that we lost. But again, I'm the math person. I was crunching all the numbers the whole time too. I was just like, no, that's good. Like I had already told myself or prepared myself. I was prepared for 4. I'd want to do it again if we only had 3. So I think we ended up with 5 because I remember I was like, so 5, no, I'm good. I feel very good about that. So again, it's going our way. It's going our way. Positive, positive, positive. We do the transfer. I'm like, we don't tell some of my close friends when we do the transfer. I even tell my mom, I don't want to tell you when we do the transfer. I just want to be in that space by myself. A trip that involves going down to a friend's wedding and seeing if I can go to the Quest diagnostic down there because we want to know. But the Quest, like, we went to the one Quest that doesn't do their own testing. They had to send it off to another lab. Anyway, long story short, I'm on the plane ride back from Dallas. I sit next to a surrogate. She's like, oh, you're from St. Louis. And I'm like, yeah, what brings you to St. Louis? She's like, I'm going to get pregnant. And I pray to God. I'm like, I hope this isn't a sign. I hope this isn't a sign that you've introduced me to the surrogate. She was lovely though, by the way. We still talk.
That's so cool.
Yeah, but it didn't work. Our IVF did not stick, and I was devastated. That crushed me. I was devastated.
I'm so sorry. That's so hard to get that call.
It was so hard. I did not fully recover from that. We had paid for the 2 transfer package.
Yeah.
So I knew, so that was good because I knew mentally I would always do it again. But I needed a break. And breaks, I mean, any woman out there, breaks are good. So it broke me. I thought I could go right into the next round. I started the meds again, and I was in an appointment just so numb, just feeling nothing in the stirrups. And I was like, I'm not ready. I still need to take a break.
Yeah.
And so we took that break, and I did eventually. I set a date for when I wanted to resume. I was like, I need to take a break. I just need at least a month. Took a month off, did a second IVF round. At this point, my husband and I were communicating so well that I said, I can do this. I can't be the optimistic one. I need you to be optimistic for me because I need that energy. And I remember him saying, oh, I get why you're optimistic. This is kind of fun. And then when it didn't work, I remember saying, oh, I get why you're not. You don't have a scar to fall.
Oh.
And it didn't work again. So
okay.
At this point, again, I'm not getting any younger. We've used 2 embryos.
Yeah.
I make the decision.
So you did 2 or 3 IUIs and 2 IVFs at this point.
We have done 2 full IUIs, but remember, I had prepped for a 3rd IUI.
Right. Got it. Okay. Yeah.
We've done 2 IUIs. I had prepped my body
so
for
much.
a 3rd IUI.
It's so much.
Yep. I've gained, at this point, I've probably gained like 30 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm happy that work was getting me through. I felt like work, this is just for me, was the only thing that I could do well. I was like, I'm good at this still. I'm not good at anything else right now. And I made the hard decision. It's hard on your body, but also financially, but I was able to do it, that we would do a second retrieval. So December of 2020, we did just some exploratory. So that's when we started doing all the stuff that I know Rally people have heard of, and you guys advertise. We did Emma, Alice, ERA, recipient. We did all the tests. All came back lovely. She said I had a lovely uterus or whatever. They kind of feel
like, cool. Where's my baby?
At this point now, remember at first, bittersweet, unexplained. At this point now, I wanted something. Because what are we going to do differently?
Exactly.
There's nothing really for us to do differently.
Yeah. I think anybody who's been diagnosed with unexplained can relate to what you just said, that, like we were talking about before. Yeah.
Yeah. Educational purposes, I'll mention that the first IVF round was fully medicated because I was like, let's just jumpstart it. The second time, I wanted it to be easier on my body. So we did a modified natural IVF cycle, which is a little bit less shots. Because I was taking the Letrizole again, like I did for IUI, but you still need to take shots to get your body to where you need for the IVF and the follicles and all that stuff. Anyway, but found nothing. Decided in January we would do our 3rd IVF round, and our doctor had always said, I really do think, just with your numbers, I really do think that it could happen in 3. but I knew I wanted multiple kids, so we decided to do another retrieval. Again, I'm not now I'm 33.
Mm-hmm.
Not getting younger. Let's do that, which is nerve-wracking because you try not to compare because it was a little different than the
Right.
first time. But I just kept telling myself we don't need as many, and it did turn out okay, and we did get not as many, but we didn't need as many.
Mm-hmm.
We did our transfer February 14th. My husband and I had been very good by this point. February, the day before our transfer, I think I was just anxious. Huge fight.
Okay.
And
This is Valentine's Day, right?
it's the day before Valentine's Day. I know we actually
Okay.
transferred on Valentine's Day. So the night before on the 13th, huge fight.
Yeah,
I realize now it was my nerves, I think. Uh,
totally.
Plus, I'm still jacked up on hormones, like all that. So I think it was my nerves. But I texted my doctor and my nurse, which bless their hearts, like they're like, use this for emergencies, and I was not. I was texting them all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
the next day when we went in for the transfer, and he and I are hardly talking, but I'm still like, I'm doing this for me. The doctor was kind of like, are you ready? And in my head, I'm like, oh, I think she got my text and respectfully ignored me. And it was the right thing to do that she ignored me because I was just panicking. I was like, I don't think I can do this. Let's reschedule. Let's not do it. I was very nervous.
So you had sent her a text and was like, forget
Oh,
it. It's
oh
not
yeah. I
happening.
sent her a text in the middle of the night. I was like, I don't think I can do it. I'm not ready. I can't. But I think I was just nervous and anxious because if it doesn't work again, what does our life look like? How many more rounds can I do? How much more can I take? How many emotional letdowns? But yeah, we transferred it on the 14th and she stuck. We chose not to find out the genders until later because that seemed hard to me to know what we were losing.
Yeah.
But we did finally find out the gender after we transferred. I felt like it was fitting that she was a woman. Felt
Oh,
like it was fitting that she was the fighter and she stuck.
tell me
And
about finding out that you were pregnant. What did you early test or did you wait for the call or what did,
I could not early test, and bless the heart of people who do. But I'm like, for me, I'm like, there's no win here because it's going to be positive and I will not believe it, or it'll be a bigger letdown if it's wrong, or if it's going to be negative and I'll just know sooner. And I just want to live in that bliss. So I actually never was an early tester.
same.
Yeah, I could not.
I
So,
get it though. I see
oh,
both
I get
sides of
it.
it. I was terrified of false positive or
Me
false
too.
negative,
All of it. Yeah.
all of it. Yeah.
I could not. I know some people say like they're like, I want to know the time for me. So I got the call from the doctor while I was at work. I answered and I didn't even let her say hello. I just was like, I can't do this right now. Call my husband. And then she was like, and I was like, can you just call him? So she's like, okay. She called him. He called me and he was like, where are you sitting down or wherever? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, you're pregnant.
I just
And
got the chills.
yeah. And I, you know, cried and went home from work early and we just sat in that together. And as anyone who's gone through it knows, the anxiety didn't stop from there, but it still was just, yeah, it's amazing. And for me, I've never been pregnant. So for me, I don't think I stopped having anxiety till she was here. But
Hmm.
what I did to deal with it was every week I was like, this is further than you gotten before. This is further than
Hmm.
you've gotten before. I just kept telling myself that in case anything happened that went wrong, which would be devastating. But I kept telling myself, your body can do this. You've gotten one step further. Um,
Totally. You have to take it just sometimes one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, even.
yeah,
We talk about that in Fertility Rally a lot. The anxiety of pregnancy after infertility. Let's dive into that a little bit more. What did that look like for you? Like, were you like constantly checking when you wiped and, like
yeah,
terrified that you weren't going to feel her move as it progressed, like all that stuff? What was it like
yeah.
for you?
Yeah. So the beginning, and when I say beginning, the first 8 to 10 weeks before you graduate, quote unquote, really was blissful because I was just like, you've gotten here, you've never gotten here.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I graduated, once I had that first OBGYN appointment, which they want you to then go 4 weeks. I'm like, like I had it and I was like, I need to see you sooner than every 4 weeks. And she did allow. I want to shout out that I advocated for myself, and all of my providers were never one of my struggles, because I know that some women struggle with that. So make sure you find a good fit. Like they always had my back every step of the way. But
That's so good to ask for what you want. And
yeah.
are you available if someone isn't good at isn't good at making those calls? Like you call and be like, "Hi,
Oh,
this is Ali Prado,"
oh,
but it's
oh,
actually
oh,
you.
anytime, especially any rally member who signs up. If you need me to be like, listen, and book those calls for you, I will. I'll talk to your
I
husband.
feel like I'd do anything you asked. I'm like, okay, yeah, totally.
Yes. But so anyway, once we had that OB/GYN appointment, when in theory we should be in the clear, no, I actually realized I went through a little PTSD and a little brief moment of sadness, because then I was just like, I think everything that I was using to hold it together, finally, I just had a moment of just like when my body relaxed, the emotions flooded. And even though I was pregnant, that's when then, yeah, the wiping and the checking and the like, oh my gosh, came. And so that was another thing I had to deal with and process and talk through. And then finally, second trimester, I think, is when I'm laughing, because it's like you never, and not until she's here, you ever really calm. But that's when I finally started to think I didn't have to wipe. And kicking, the first kick is also bittersweet, because the first kick, they're not kicking all the time. So the first kick was great to feel, but then I was like, well, I haven't felt her in a long time, baby girl, like kick again, but then we got to the point where she was kicking all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and she's here. She's 8 weeks old
Oh
now.
my gosh. Tell me about her and when you were finally able to hold her in your arms.
Well, I want to say that she was actually born on her due date, which I guess, like, statistically, that doesn't
Wow, that's
happen.
wild.
It is. I feel like that was setting the stage for, I told you I was coming on the second, and I'm coming on the second, because I think it's hard to say this, which is why I'm glad that we had the pregnant after infertility group, but I didn't really like being pregnant. So I
Which
was,
is an interesting thing too when you've gone through infertility and you've
yeah,
worked so hard to get there and then and then I know people feel guilty
I did.
admitting
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and that's why part of the reason, like you said, we have the pregnancy after infertility group in Rally is because you can say those things and people are like, I get it.
Yeah, but because I didn't really like it, I definitely was trying to do all the wives' tales to get her to come early. She didn't. She came on the second, and oh my gosh, it's a love that I didn't know existed, and I feel so blessed to be at this point. And you do. I'm not gonna lie, you then do still feel some guilt for the
Hmm.
people still going through it.
It's like survivor's guilt or something,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, for sure,
Hmm.
completely, and that, and
That's
yeah.
well, that's because you're an empathetic, sweet person, Kristen.
Thank,
Like
thank
that's
you.
of
Um,
course, you're going to feel for your fellow TTC, brothers and sisters who are going through this that haven't gotten there yet. It's hard. It is
Yeah.
hard.
But yeah, that all brings us to, I'm so happy and life changed and blessed. And yet again, that's where that is a full circle to the passion comes in, because I do still feel for people still going through it, and wherever it leads you. And because I know sometimes you might say, I am done. Like, I can't do this anymore. And I'm respectful of that too. That this is
Hmm.
what worked for us, and I'm glad it worked out. But
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, everyone's journey is different. But yeah.
So, what would you say to someone who's listening right now that is new to this world? Maybe this is the first episode of this podcast they've listened to, even. What do you know now that you wish you knew then? Or what kind of words do you have for somebody who's, really in the shit right now, really in the thick of it, having a hard time?
For anyone who's really in the thick of it, having a hard time, I really do think you need to, I emphasize the self-work I did, and I really do think you need to find what you need for you to get through. Like, and mine was talking to people, yours might be just journaling. It's okay to say no to those baby showers. It's okay to say no from some social media, which I did. It's okay to say
Yeah,
no to some family gatherings. I remember joining Rally, which I also recommend. But I remember saying to a woman, at some point, it is just like we're all just trying to survive. We're just trying to survive.
totally.
And so it's give yourself grace, and don't judge anything you do to survive. Anything you do that's healthy, healthy for yourself. to survive. I think that'd be my biggest piece of advice, because when you do that and you're your best self, I think you will be able to advocate yourself. You'll be able to ask questions. You'll be able to like just think clearly. But I think that that's what you need to do first, whatever that looks like, which could be eating clean. It could be eating, a burger every day. I by no means did everything exactly as they say. It could be stopping drinking. It could be having wine up till or here and there while but you gotta just, we're surviving. You truly are surviving.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. As you know, if you want to join Fertility Rally, we would love to have you. We welcome everybody, no matter what you're going through. We have people who are going through pretty much anything you can think of, and you are definitely going to find somebody or multiple people to connect with on that. We've got 5 to 6 virtual support groups per week for all different kinds of things. We've got 3 Facebook groups. We've got an online website full of resources and videos. All of our past Rally Live videos are up there now. So if you become a member, you have access to all of this stuff. It's really the place and the stuff that I wish I had when I was going through it. So if you want to join, go to fertilityrally.com. Our doors are open always now. And we have a monthly membership. We have an annual membership. You can DM us at Fertility Rally on Instagram if you have any questions, or you can email thefertilityrally@gmail.com, and I will answer your email there if you have any questions. So we'd love to have you. Kristin is a member, as she talked about. So many of our members, say that it's just something that really has helped them through their journey, which means the world to me and my co-founder, Blair. So guys, check us out. Also, please check out my book, which is called Work of Art. And you can find that at infertilifegroup.com/books. It's a book about IVF and secondary infertility and miscarriage and family building. And it's not too heavy though. Don't worry. It's a children's book. It's very cute and it's very sweet. And I'm so proud of it. So thank you all if you've ordered it already and posted about it and shared it with your friends and all that. So check it out. And again, let me know if you have any questions. Okay, that's my ramble. Thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you next time.